There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. That guy right there at the Supernatural News Desk, Mr. Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hiya.
We got a lot of cool stories to cover this week. Tim, some exciting news, if you don't mind me dropping a couple of beats on you here.
Sure, go ahead.
That's what the kids say, I think, out on the street corner.
Dropping a funky beat, yeah.
Yeah, you know I filmed for that TV show Haunted Hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's going to start airing October 12th. How exciting.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Every Friday in October, brand new episodes. But they're only available to our friends near the Texas border, Tim. They're only in Canada.
Oh, no.
All right, now it's going to be on the Travel and Entertainment Channel. So for those of you Canadian fans and friends, make sure that you set your recorders. It starts Friday, October 12th. It's called Haunted Hospital. And I will be on the third episode, which airs like right before Halloween. I think it's like October 26th or something. So make sure that you keep it up and check it out. And since I won't be able to see it here, please let me know just how amazing I was. That's all I ask him. Just tell me. I need a little adulation, some love and affection.
Yeah.
That's all. And this weekend, our buddy Josh Gates has a brand new special that's going to begin airing. It's a 4-part series. Josh Gates Expedition Unknown, 4-part crossover that begins airing Sunday, October 7th. I think it's 10 p.m. Eastern on the Discovery Channel. And this is what's going to be going on. In Russia, Josh works with transhumanists attempting to harness technology so they can live forever. He also visits with world-famous psychic Chip Coffey, who delivers an impossible message from the great beyond. And in a village in the mountains of Indonesia, Josh meets villagers who live with the dead, using age-old rituals to keep the spirits alive. And then they go aboard the infamously haunted ship, the Queen Mary, where Josh is going to join world-famous paranormal investigators Grant Wilson, Amy Bruni, and Adam Berry for a shocking ghost search, as well as the first-ever investigation of the ship's propellers, which visitors claim still emit an otherworldly hum. Josh also ventures deep into the Amazon to consume ayahuasca, the so-called vine of death, and he does that in an effort to make direct contact with the other side. And I'll tell you, having talked to him, I can't really give anything away, but having talked to him about that experience, you guys do not want to miss this series. It is the Expedition Unknown Search for the Afterlife. It airs in 4 parts starting this Sunday at 10 p.m. on Discovery Channel. Each episode is then followed by the After the Search, which is a roundtable. And it's a special from Expedition Unknown headquarters, and they'll feature never-before-seen footage, behind-the-scenes secrets, and more. So make sure you set that for your recorders starting this weekend, guys, on Discovery Channel. It is Expedition Unknown 4-part special crossover series on the afterlife. So that's going to be pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to watching that and recording it as well. I am off this weekend, Tim, at my daughter's wedding, which is exciting.
Yeah.
She gets married today. It's a Halloween-themed wedding, so we'll all be in costume. I'm going as Indiana Jones, Tim, because you know my love of the out-of-doors. I feel this is the closest chance I'm going to get to look rugged and outdoorsy.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. Let's get started with, how about this for the weekend, Tim? People are looking for something fun to do, besides listening to our shows, of course, and catching up on Midnight in the Desert with Dave Schrader from the past week. Mm-hmm. There's a brand new movie out, and this fits right in our realm, kids. It's an alien invasion movie.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it just came out last night.
Okay.
And Tim and I had a chance to go see this the other day on Wednesday. It is Venom, which is based on the very popular Marvel superhero comic book series, but they've taken quite a bit of liberties. They've separated themselves from the Spider-Man universe. Mm-hmm. So I went in with the lowest expectations. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just realized this is a whole new beast that I was going to go in and witness.
Right.
And, I'd always had an affection and an affinity for the character in the comic books and Marvel Comics. And I was there when we first were introduced to the alien symbiote costume in the Marvel Secret Wars series and watched it come to life and start to take over and become this beast known as Venom as it attached to Eddie Brock. So I had kind of preconceived notions of the stories. But again, knowing that they were taking a whole new stance and not going to wrap it into the Spider-Man universe, I cleared my mind, cleared my soul and my palate of it. And I went in to check out this movie, and it is an alien movie. That's the way they handle it. Venom and a few other of these symbiotes are brought back from a comet, I think they said. And, we've got the industrial Elon Musk type guy that's in charge. Mm-hmm. And you find out he's got some nefarious plans. We won't give away any spoilers on that.
Sure.
And we're introduced to Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy, yet another crossover. He was Bane in the Batman movie, and now he's Venom in the Venom movie. Only his voices are much better in this one. So I went in. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a fun, light romp, kind of in the vein of a Spider-Man movie and Deadpool. It's got more adult language, certainly a little bit more violence than most of the other superhero movies, and kind of more adult, mature theme to it. And it is a little bit more scary, I would say. I don't know if this is something I would bring my little kids to see.
Right.
Because Venom, when in full-blown mode, is really kind of creepy. But overall, I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it missed its mark on maybe they were trying to push too much of the Deadpool humor. But overall, I would say it was a really fun, inventive, new movie, and I'm going to be interested to see where they go. Now, when we saw it, they had two endings. So there is an ending in the credits, and then you wait all the way to the very end, and then they show a scene from something else. And I don't want to give anything away on that, but you can hang in and see that. And I was impressed with what I saw in that little segment as well.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. I would say out of 5 stars, I would give this a solid 3.5 for entertainment. Where do you come down on the new movie Venom?
Well, and you said how many stars?
I gave it 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. I'm going to be a little harder on it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Here's my issue. And Sony did a great thing when it got together with the Marvel universe and said, you know what? We acquiesce. We realize that nobody can do Marvel better than Marvel. I thought that was a wonderful thing that Amy Pascal did when she reached across the aisle, so to speak, and got together with Marvel and said, you know what? We're going to enter into a business relationship with you, and we're going to let you take control of Spider-Man, and we're going to do Spider-Man Homecoming with you in a partnership. I thought that was the greatest thing they could have ever done, because I really didn't. I was really, what's a good way of putting this? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wasn't impressed with the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies. I did not.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So I thought when immediately when they said, you know what, we have plans for this Venom movie. We have plans for, I believe there's a Black Cat movie out there. And this extended villain universe that kind of is a satellite of the Spider-Man universe. I'm thinking, how are they going to do this without bringing Spider-Man back to the Sony Marvel universe?
Right.
I cringed. It just automatically, my backbone shrunk into about a 2-inch little vertebrae. It didn't. Right. It bothers me, because all I see is the Amazing Spider-Man stuff, and it makes me cringe. So automatically, I think a little like you, I went into this going, I'm expecting the worst. I didn't get the worst, which, thank you, Sony. I didn't get the worst. I didn't get the best either, which is unfortunate, because you do have a huge talent in Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's an amazing actor. But I don't think he was given the most amazing material to work with either. There are some faults in this, and that, I read an interesting interview with Tom Hardy in that he used his 10-year-old son as source material for Venom to really get the feel of both Eddie Brock and Venom and how to play this. There are parts of it that are incredibly accurate, and there are other parts of it that are off the mark. And you can tell. You can just tell. You can tell that they took different inspirations for Venom. Venom was never just Eddie Brock. It was also different guys have been Venom throughout Venom's history. Mm-hmm. And you can tell they tried to take an amalgamation of those guys and put them into one character, which is a mistake. But you can never have a true representation of the comic book in a movie. We all know that.
Right, and I think they tried that in the final Tobey Maguire Spider-Man with Topher Grace playing the role, and that I felt was a horribly botched movie.
Yeah.
A horribly botched view of the story. So that's why I said I disconnected from this. I just allowed it to be a whole new thing and tried not to put myself into that Marvel universe.
I tried, and I realized that this wasn't going to be anything related to Spider-Man, and I went along for the ride, and I went in with the expectation that, and I'm going to be harsh here, I went in with the expectation this was going to be garbage. And I came out going, you know what? This wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And I actually kind of enjoyed it. But I didn't enjoy it to the point where I really wanted to enjoy it. So with that being said, Tom Hardy did an excellent job with what he was given. But the rest of the characters kind of fall flat. And the plot is okay. The plot's okay. The writing's okay. And there's a nice little surprise at the end, again, that we're not going to spoil, but right. I don't know that there's enough to make me want to come back to see a sequel, unless you incorporate this whole thing with the Marvel Universe, which I'm hoping they do. I would really like to see Venom in the Marvel Universe, and especially with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which they eventually did in the comic book. I really think, being now that you don't have James Gunn behind the directorial or even writing Guardians of the Galaxy, I think the best thing to do is now make Venom jump and Tom Hardy jump into that universe. And I think you could save this character in this movie altogether by doing that. With that being said, my rating would be a 2.5 out of 5.
2.5 out of 5 for Venom. So maybe go see it as a matinee.
Yeah,
go see a matinee of the movie.
Would be perfect. A matinee would I think you would walk away happy seeing it as a matinee. I think you would be absolutely satisfied with seeing it that way.
Good deal. Let's get started with supernatural news. Where are we going to begin today's journey?
We go to Louisiana, Dave. I believe it is Louisiana.
All right. Who doesn't love Louisiana, Tim? Good food, good drinks. Man, good swimming out there in Louisiana, too. Just getting out there in the muck and the mire and swimming around and putting your head underwater and feeling that cool, refreshing Louisiana bayou water filled with alligators and snakes. But why worry about the out of doors, right, Tim? Just go and enjoy yourself.
You don't worry about the outdoors anymore?
I'm trying not to, Tim. I'm trying not to. I'm going to be Indiana Jones for my daughter's wedding. So I'm trying to be the tougher role model-y dad I should be. Well, Dave, so I would dive headlong into this water of Louisiana and enjoy myself now.
Even Tim. Indiana Jones was afraid of snakes.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be Indiana Jones 2.0, where I'm only mildly irritated by snakes.
Well, good on you, my friend. Good on you.
So what's going on in Louisiana?
Well, this guy evidently was afraid of ghosts.
Okay.
And ghosts that plant meth on you.
Do what?
They plant meth on you, Dave. I don't know if you
what now?
Ghosts do, Dave. They plant meth on you. It's a new thing, evidently.
Okay.
Who knew? Authorities say they arrested a Wichita Parish man on drug and false reporting charges after he told them quite a story, possibly involving a ghost.
Okay.
The Wichita Parish Sheriff's Office say they responded to a home on Lynette Drive in the West Monroe area after getting a call from a man who said he had been attacked with an axe. The man claimed someone stabbed him in the head with the bladed weapon. When deputies arrived, they found the caller, Michael L. Ottenberry, at his front door cursing at people who were obviously not there. That's in quotes. Deputies say the man was not calm and cursing at them too, so they placed him in handcuffs for their safety. Upon looking Ottenberry over, they say they found no indication that he had actually been hit in the head with an axe. According to
they had to look him over to decide that?
Yeah, well...
I would think that'd be something that would jump right out at you. You'd be like walking along and look at somebody and be like, good God, man, what happened to you?
Yeah.
But they had to look him over. So I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe the glasses, maybe he had a nearsighted constable.
It might have been more of a hatchet than an axe, like
a hatchet, yeah.
But, one can never tell. You really have to look him over. According to arrest records, Ottenberry also told deputies that intruders were inside his home. They then went inside, but say that they couldn't find any intruders. What they did find, however, was a small bag of meth in plain view on a nightstand. They say they also found a gram of meth on Ottenberry. Evidently, he was stacked to the gills with meth. When asked about the meth, deputies say Ottenberry told them that the intruders or a ghost then planted the meth. Ottenberry is charged with giving a false police report and possession of a controlled dangerous substance.
Hey, before they say that it's a false police report, you know who he should talk to, Tim?
Who's that?
Dave Schrader, defense attorney at law.
Get 20% off your meth right now.
Until you can prove to me that a ghost did not do it, you can't just charge me willy-nilly. You can charge me, but you damn well better be able to prove ghosts do not exist. And especially meth planting ghosts, Tim. I'm just saying, the onus is on the law at this point. And they not only have to prove that my client is guilty, but Your Honor, I demand that they prove that the afterlife does not exist. The ghosts are not here, Your Honor.
Dave, where would the ghost find the meth?
Well, Tim, it might have blown off a building and landed on his shoulder, and he just brushed it off, and it happened to fall in this guy's pocket.
But then the ghost not only had to plant the meth on Ottenberry, but then they had to go out and find more meth to put on his nightstand.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there was another bag that fell on the ghost's other shoulder, and he shook it off, and it landed there, Tim. So ghosts are tricky like that.
They're all
it's
tailored.
Called apportation, Tim. Apportation, where these little like pocket universes open up and things fall through. It's well known. As a matter of fact, Your Honor, for your thoughts, I would like you to review the Afterlife Investigations, the Skull Experiment, the entire documentary will show you, Your Honor, that apportation happens all the time. As a matter of fact, they had a newspaper drop in from like the 1800s. They had coins and other mysterious objects just fall on the table in front of them, Your Honor. So there is your proof. Now I think it's up to the law to prove that it didn't happen. So, I rest my case, Your Honor. Dun, 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 dun.
So Walter White is just cooking up a storm in the afterlife.
It could be.
That's what you're saying. Huh. Interesting. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Well, I tried.
Yeah. You did.
Give me an A for effort, yeah.
You did try. I'll give you that. We move on because I don't think that case is going to fly in court. I really don't.
Wow. Thanks for the vote of confidence.
I'm not saying it's...
persnickety of venom. Now you're going after me.
I'm not saying it's you.
In attack mode today,
it's
folks.
Not...
He's so angry, and listen to him. He's filled with roid rage.
I wish.
Settle down, Tim. Settle down. Stop yelling.
I wish I were on roids, but this is all fat, my friend. It's not muscle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just thought it was one really big ab.
No, I wish. No.
All right. So that's it. A ghost planting meth on my client.
Yeah.
We'll look into this further, Your Honor.
You'll have to.
I said good day.
Yeah. The Cottingley Ferries photographs will be auctioned. Evidently, another forgery. No, I'm kidding. Oh, look at me, Mr. Negative today. The famously, it says faked Cottingley Ferries photographs are to be sold at auction. It says it in the article, Dave. I'm not saying it. It says it in the article. Pictures of dancing pixies were taken in 1917 by 16-year-old Elsie Wright and her 9-year-old cousin Frances Griffith in the village of Cottingley, or cottage of Villingly, depending on how you say it, near Bingley in Yorkshire.
Potato, tomato.
Exactly. The hoax fooled many people, including Sherlock Holmes author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who was on meth at the time, I believe, if you look at it. Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Ghosts gave it to him, Dave. Auctioneers, there's your precedent that you can bring into court. Arthur Conan Doyle was on meth. Ghosts gave it to him.
Actually, it was heroin.
Oh, was it? And the ghost gave him that?
it was.
Okay. Auctioneers expect the 2 images to fetch over £2,000 when they're sold next month. The girls borrowed Elsie's father's camera and used colored paper cutouts and hat pins to stage their scenes near the stream at the end of Elsie's garden. They first showed Frances with 4 dancing fairies, and 2 months later photographed Elsie seated with a 1-foot-tall dancing gnome. I've seen that too when I've been drunk. I'm just saying.
Have you?
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
That wasn't a gnome, Tim. That was just me.
Oh.
You know how I like to get down, get with it?
Oh, yeah.
Come on and move my body.
Yeah, exactly. And you are quite good at it. In 1919, Elsie's mother, Polly Wright, took prints of the 2 photographs to show members of the Theosophical Society in Bradford, where they were giving a lecture on fairy life. From there, things spiraled out of control, first through the enthusiastic belief of leading society member Edward Gardner, who used photography expert Harold Snelling to produce photographic prints of them to be sold at Gardner's Theosophical Lectures in 1920. The pictures found their way to keen spiritualist Conan Doyle, who was writing a magazine story on fairy life. I wonder how you study that, by the way, if you just break into a fairy convention and say, hey, I'm studying fairy life. Following the publication of Conan Doyle's article, a great public controversy raged, with leading scientists and writers voicing their opinions in support of and against the truthfulness of the photographs. Auctioneer and photography specialist Chris Albury said the photographs were likely printed for sale at lectures advocating spiritualism. While there was a lot of skepticism in the authenticity of the photographs at the time, he said, the story never went away, and Elsie and Frances only confessed that the photographs had been faked in 1983. Frances even then maintaining the 5th photograph was genuine and that she believed in fairies. The photographs will be sold by Dominic Winter auctioneers in Cirencester and Gloucestershire. Cirencester, Gloucester, you know what I'm saying, on the 4th of October.
I may, but nobody in England knows what the hell you're talking about.
I need to drink something here quickly.
All right. Tim needs to moisten his pipes, folks. You'll just have to give him a second.
There we go. We move on, thank God. What evidence of a first moon orbiting a planet outside of our solar system really means, according to this article. Did the Hubble Space Telescope come up with evidence of the first moon orbiting a planet outside of our solar system? If so, it's a stunning discovery which changes our knowledge of the universe around us. This discovery was made by 2 of NASA's most celebrated telescopes, Hubble and Kepler, which were used by 2 astronomers, Alex Tichy and David Kipping from Columbia University. The 2 spent hundreds of hours analyzing data from 284 planets discovered by Kepler, which had orbits longer than 30 days around their host star. One of those, Kepler 1625b, that's what the kids are calling it these days.
25b?
I'm having an issue with my throat today. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah. Was intriguing enough to warrant getting time on the Hubble Space Telescope to investigate it in detail because its characteristics suggested a moon. I'll tell you this much, Dave. Never get a couple of endoscopies in a month. It ruins your vocal cords. I'm just saying. The data they uncovered indicates an exomoon the size of Neptune. That's no moon, by the way. In a stellar system 8,000 light years from Earth. While this is an exciting discovery, it's still not confirmed. It will take more time on the Hubble Space Telescope to confirm this remarkable find. Astrophysicist Hakeem, you did this to me on purpose, Olusai says this really could.
It wasn't even that bad.
Yeah,
you ninny.
Olusai says this really could change the way we look at our solar system. Now, the big question, is there anyone else out there? That's the question that ABC News presses. The discovery of all these planets and understanding how they were formed opens up a whole new avenue for finding life out there, Olusai told ABC News. What is an exomoon is the other question asked. It's a moon outside our solar system, which we can't see directly, but when it passes in front of a star, the light from that star dims, and that's how it's detected. What Hubble was able to do was provide evidence by tracking the planet and proving it had crossed an hour earlier than expected, which, like Earth and its moon, shows a planet and moon orbiting a common center of gravity with a bit of a wobble, just like Earth or me on a Saturday night. Just saying. There you go.
Just on a Saturday night?
Yeah, I leave Fridays.
I've seen you do some wobbling on Fridays.
No, I leave Fridays open for Bible study and cookies.
Yeah, okay.
I do. So there you go.
All right. Where are we off to next?
A Brazil cult leader who contacted aliens has backed dictatorship with terror attacks, and documents have shown this. Well, why not? Revelation comes days before the election in which the frontrunner and far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro has praised the dictatorship era as a golden age. Oh, how
Your
nice.
balls are narrow, did you just say?
Yes, my balls are narrow, and
okay.
Something else is very thick. We'll just put it at that.
Wow.
Yeah. A Brazilian right-wing group led by a messianic cult leader who claimed to be in contact with aliens carried out terroristic acts to justify repression by the country's military dictatorship, according to newly discovered archive documents.
I'm a big fan of dictator tots. Man, do I love those.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, especially with a burger and a fresh salad, some dictator tots. Get them while they're hot.
Only problem is they take over your stomach and colon. And it's all over.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah. The revelation landed days before the country's presidential election amid a polarized campaign in which the frontrunner, far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro, has praised the dictatorship era as a golden age. According to an investigation, the independent news agency Publica, which drew on archive documents, the paramilitary group carried out terrorist attacks so that military rulers could tighten repression. Archive documents, including records of group members' interrogations, revealed that the attacks were secretly encouraged by a general who was close to then-President Arthur da Costa e Silva and in contact with federal police. The revelations added to other reports of state-sponsored right-wing terrorism attacks during the military regime which ran Brazil from 1964 to 1985. There's always been a certain suspicion that groups of the right had actually organized to do some attacks. What is surprising is the richness of detail in these documents, said Luiz Dias, a professor of history at the Pontifical Catholic University in Sao Paulo and specialist in Brazil's dictatorship. The group was led by Aladinho Felix, who wrote a book called My Contact with Flying Saucers under the pseudonym Dino Crespidone. There you go.
That's his pseudonym?
Yeah.
I would have gone with something a little cooler.
Like what?
I don't know, but not that.
Okay. He claimed to be the Messiah of the Jewish people and had served in the army during the Second World War. Mm-hmm. He was seen as a crazy guy, said Vasconcelos Quadros, who conducted the investigation, but he had a relationship with the authorities. Felix led a group of 14 police officers who, between December of 1967 and August of 1968, carried out a series of terrorist acts, detonating 14 bombs, stealing arms and explosives, and robbing a bank. Targets included the Sao Paulo Stock Exchange, a secret police headquarters, and an oil pipeline. In March of 1968, armed leftist groups also began planting bombs, and as violence increased in December of 1968, the military government used left-wing terrorism as its justification to introduce a landmark decree that toughed up the dictatorship's powers, ushered in its most repressive period, which began known as the, oh, Dave, you did this to me on purpose, the Anos de Chumbo, or Years of Lead. You know, that's just one letter off from something else, Anos. I'm just saying. A 2014 report by Brazil's Truth Commission blamed the dictatorship for 434 killings and disappearances. Felix and his group were arrested in 1968. Felix served a little over 3 years in prison, Quadros said, and eventually died in 1985. In 1981, a sergeant was killed and the captain injured when a bomb in a car they were waiting in at the Rio Centro Convention Center in Rio de Janeiro exploded. Both were members of the Doi Cody intelligence agency, a CIA document published this year revealed. So there you go.
Fancy dancy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of news you're sharing there.
That is.
Where shall we go next in the world of supernatural news, Tim?
Well, you know, Elon Musk has been puffing away with Joe Rogan, and now he has... He
really has.
Yeah, he has. To the point now where he's being sued by the government because he's making 420 references when it comes to taking his company public. But now he's asking if we're living in a simulation, Dave. He's going all Matrix on the bit. And there's an article here asking how we might be able to tell if he's right. I think he's been smoking up and watching The Matrix, and now he's tripping.
Yep.
Yeah,
he be tripping, yo.
He be tripping, yo. Is the world around us real? Is what this article is asking, and are we living in a simulation like characters trapped inside some space aliens video game? Whoa, man. Remember, always pass to the left.
Wow, no kidding.
Yep.
How do I get a puff of that nonsense?
Don't bogart it, man. Don't bogart it. That sounds like a question you might hear at a midnight screening of The Matrix, but lately, which, by the way, is, 18 or 19 years old now?
Is it really?
Yeah, it came out in 99.
Holy cow.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Time keeps on slipping.
Yeah.
Into the future.
That's what happens when you're toking away and eating the Cheetos.
That's what they tell me. Yeah.
But lately, it becomes the subject of serious academic debate. High-profile proponents of what's known as the simulation hypothesis include SpaceX chief Elon Musk, who recently expounded on the idea during an interview for a popular podcast. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, games will eventually be indistinguishable from reality, Musk said, before concluding, we're most likely in a simulation. Ooh, wow, man. That was some good stuff he was smoking. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson agrees, giving better than 50-50 odds that the simulation hypothesis is correct. Man, they get some good stuff in Hollywood. I wish I could summon...
Wait a minute, but it's Neil Tyson deGrasse who's also saying, hey, I can't prove that that's not happening. That's pretty interesting.
Good stuff. I wish I could summon a strong argument against it, he says, but I can find none. He's not looking hard enough.
Man, we are in a crap simulation. Whoever wrote our code,
I know.
I'm pissed.
Right. The current assault on reality began with a 2003 paper by Nick Bostrom. In it, the University of Oxford philosopher laid down some blunt logic, and this is what it is. If there are long-lived technological civilizations in the universe, and if they run computer simulations, assuming they have computers, there must be a huge number of simulated realities complete with artificial intelligence inhabitants who may have no idea they're living inside a game. Inhabitants like us, perhaps. You may now take your first hit off the bomb.
Can I purchase a new skin?
Sure.
Right?
You can
Isn't
do
that what the kids call it in video games?
That's right.
You can buy a new skin. I could get like a mullet and a much skinnier body.
I need everything replaced if you have one.
Do you?
Yes, everything.
All right. Well, you've got to start collecting the gold coins, Tim.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'd like to learn how to floss while I'm at it. If we're doing the Fortnite thing, I'd like to learn how to floss. These beings might imagine themselves real, but would have no physical form, existing only within the simulation. Take hit number 2 off the bong if you're playing along at home. If computer-loving aliens truly exist, Bostrom argued, we are most certainly living in a computer simulation. And then people like Tyson and Musk found their minds blown. Just like that. Now, scientists are searching for ways to put the simulation hypothesis to test. Bostrom is eager to see more concrete developments of his idea. Experiments that could distinguish physical reality from a simulation are what would be needed for it to be a bona fide scientific assertion, he told Mach, which I believe is a magazine. Scott Aronson, a computer scientist at the University of Texas at Austin, is more expressive about what such experiments could mean. If there were bugs in the program running our universe, like in the Matrix movie, those could clearly have observable effects, he says, just like God appearing in a thundercloud could be pretty good empirical evidence in favor of religion. Any such bugs in our Matrix world would have to be extremely subtle, or else we would have noticed them by now, Silas Bean, a nuclear physicist at the University of Washington in Seattle, proposes that we may be able to ferret out previously overlooked flaws by uncovering the mathematical structure used to build our simulated reality. He points out that the scientists in his field use a lattice-like set of coordinates to simulate the behavior of subatomic particles. Maybe the aliens or whoever built our simulation, if it exists, use that approach too. If our reality is built on top of a lattice, there'd be a fundamental coarseness to it, since there could be no details in our mock universe smaller than the resolution of the simulation. Are you confused? Take hit number 3 of the bong.
All right.
Because we're about to go deeper. Are you ready?
Are we? The rabbit hole is continuing to enlarge for me.
Even if the resolution limit is too small for us to observe directly, Bean says, we may be able to detect it experimentally In a paper he wrote with 2 colleagues, Bean proposes that a simulation lattice could affect the behavior of ultra-energetic particles known as cosmic rays. That's right, you too can become a member of the Fantastic Four, affecting their orientation and maximum intensity. Instruments like the telescope array, a network of...
Set intensity to maximum.
Exactly. Oh, and then the article changed on me. They don't want me to read it. Hold on just one second here.
That's because they're changing the matrix around you, Tim.
That's right.
They don't want you sharing the truth, Tim.
They're like, no, Tim, you can't read that. Even if the resolution, directly cosmic rays affecting their orientation to maximum intensity. Instruments like the telescope array, a network of 500 detectors scattered across 300 square miles of Utah desert, watch for cosmic rays as they crash into Earth's atmosphere from deep space. The detectors have already discovered particles as much as 100 quintillion times, that's not a made-up word or number, as energetic as visible light. That seems like a great place to start hunting for bugs in any simulation. It would be a delicate task. High-energy cosmic rays are rare, and the deviations from ordinary physical effects might not be obvious, but Bean and company are encouraged that making such a measurement is feasible, at least in principle. There always remains the possibility for the simulated to discover the simulators, the authors write. Another way to sleuth for glitches in the simulation is by looking inward rather than outward. In a recently proposed test, former NASA engineer Thomas Campbell and his colleagues point out that human video game designers typically maximize the efficiency of their programming by generating only the parts of the virtual world that players can see. If our matrix overlords are similarly focused on efficiency, they may be meticulous about simulating details while we're watching an event, but allow a looser style of simulation when they think nobody is looking. Take hit number 4 right there if you're playing along at home. Following that line of thought, Campbell is focusing on subtle quantum physics experiments where gaps in the simulation might be most obvious. He has conceived several tabletop optics arrangements that would shoot a laser beam through an elaborate sequence of slits, mirrors, and detectors. Photons of laser light would follow different paths contingent on whether they are behaving like waves or like particles, which in turn depends on the structure of the setup. Or rather, it should depend only on the setup if reality is rendered at the moment we are watching, Campbell theorizes. His experiments could yield results normally considered impossible, such as being able to predict whether an individual photon passes through or bounces back when it hits a half-reflective mirror. That outcome would represent an unambiguous indicator that our reality must be simulated, he went on to write. As a huge bonus, Campbell claims the experiment could also explain the weird way that events in quantum physics seem to be influenced by the observer. It may be a quirk of the simulation that we live in, not a fundamental aspect of reality. Marcus Nowak, a computational physicist at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab with a keen interest in the simulation hypothesis, sees problems with these attempts to outsmart the matrix. For instance, Campbell assumes that a simulation would be for our benefit only, but what if the simulator does not simulate us just for us, but rather to observe how everything plays out? Take hit number 5. You're going to be so high by the end of this story.
Wow. People have too much free time on their hands. This is a lot of thinking.
And Nowak notes that Bean's approach would come up empty if the lattice of reality is too fine for us to detect, or if the wily simulators have built-in systems to defeat any test we might run. The bottom line, Nowak says, is that it's impossible to test the simulation hypothesis as a whole. The best we can do is explore a limited neighborhood of notions about how the simulation might work, and hope that the designers are too lazy or too indifferent to prevent us from discovering their handiwork. There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Oof, that was deep.
Pretty deep, yeah.
It was deep and weird.
Yeah.
But it makes you think. I mean, is it obviously, you think, no, this is reality. This is life. I mean, you and I would like to think, no. This is simply a video game system. When we turn it off, we're much hotter, younger, buffer, well-endowed men than we really are, Tim.
Hell yeah.
I'm speaking for myself. Maybe you want to be a beautiful young lady in reality. Maybe this is just the skin you take here so that you're not constantly hit on all the time by the likes of me and Tim Weisberg.
Oh, yeah, that'd be creepy. I don't want to.
Yeah. So that could be what's really going on. But, you laugh at those kind of things, right? And you're kind of like, God, how high? But I've seen some really weird things, man. Really weird. Do I sound like a Vietnam vet on acid right there? Oh, man, I've seen some things. When I was out at the Ascetti Ranch and I looked up at the sky, I don't know how else to explain it other than a glitch of energy in the sky. It was like waves of energy in the sky. And it made me question the reality that I was watching. And then when I was out filming on an episode of Ghost Adventures, when we went to the Stardust Ranch, and we were using a drone. We flew it up and Billy is like, oh, Dave, look, you can see everything around it. And we're looking down and everything looks fine. And as soon as he turns the camera up, you can see the trees. You can see all of the things except for the sky keeps glitching into like static. But the trees are there. None of the trees are going to static, just the sky. Weird. It was really bizarre.
That's weird indeed. I can't ever say I've seen anything like that.
Very, very strange. So, like I said, it's easy to laugh. And then it's also, having been out there and seen some weird stuff, it certainly makes me question, just maybe they're not too far off. Maybe there is a hybridization of not necessarily a matrix, but maybe this is the dream world. Maybe I'm living the dream. When you say something like that, maybe that's what I'm legitimately doing. I'm living my dream. I'm a radio show host. I'm married to an amazing person. I've got great kids. I've got a partner and buddy in radio. This could be the dream, Tim. Maybe it's your hell. Maybe you're in hell. I don't know.
If I'm in hell, hell's pretty nice. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's
It's all a trade out. Yeah. All right. Where are we off to next?
We're going back to Louisiana, Dave.
So now I can finally headlong dive into the water, Tim.
Yeah.
And just splash about. I'll tear open my Indiana Jones shirt and have the water rivulets dripping down my masculine man chest.
No, I don't think, not yet, no.
Why?
And there's a little bit of a danger there, Dave.
Well, alligators, snakes, Tim. I'll just grab them and I'll poke the alligators in the eye, which is what you're supposed to do. I've watched Popeye cartoons, and I'll just take the snakes and tie them into a knot and throw them, Tim. I'm no longer a fearful man, because those things are big and I can see them and I see the danger, Tim. It's not like they're microscopic and I can't even witness them. So I have nothing to fear anymore. Dude, I've hypnotized myself into a new reality.
Hold on. Time out. Let's ignore the perils of the crocodile hunter and how he went out, and let's reference
that was
Popeye.
A stingray. That was an ornery stingray that got him, not an alligator, Tim.
Let's reference Popeye, a fictional cartoon, because he poked him.
Or is that the reality and we're just witnessing that reality? I'm just saying it's something to consider.
Dear God. Steve Irwin gets taken out by a stingray, and Popeye's the guy we reference who poked an alligator in the eye with a stick.
Did that character just die in the simulation, Tim? Huh? Just saying.
Did you go to the dispensary with my card? Is that what happened this month?
I wish I could. All right. Anyway, so I'm just telling you, Tim, I'm no longer afraid of things like spiders and snakes, because baby, that ain't what it takes to love me. It like I said, it would be the microscopic, the things you can't see, that would put me back into my total and unadulterated fear of the out of doors, Tim. But there's nothing like that I need to worry about. Now let's get back to your story.
Let me
Tim.
hand you your house keys and prepare to board yourself up, my friend. I got 3 words for you: brain-eating amoeba.
What?
Yeah. We go to Louisiana.
What?
Yeah, brain-eating amoeba, Dave. How would you like to...
Please tell me that this is my brain that is eating amoebas, because I'm a new guy. I'm tough.
No.
I'm a tough guy.
No, this is not your brain on drugs. This is not your brain getting something to eat out there at the White Castle. This is your brain being eaten by amoeba. And it happens in Shreveport, Louisiana, Dave, where a portion of a water system in Louisiana has tested positive for brain-eating amoeba. And we're not talking about your brain going out for something to eat. We're talking about your brain being eaten by amoeba, according to the operator of the water system. Andy Freeman is the operator of I believe this is the Sligo water system. It'll go any way you want it to, really. Said residents of the South Bossier Parish, or Bossier Parish, southeast of Shreveport, may be affected. Either way, they're not going to have brains in a while, so they're not going to care how I pronounce it. The Louisiana Department of Health conducted a random test of the system last week and notified the system of the positive results on Friday. According to Freeman, Sligo had purchased the water that tested positive for the amoeba from Bossier City, or Bossier, one or the other. Sligo had disconnected from Bossier City water and is now using well water to supply their customers. Probably a good idea.
Brain-eating amoeba.
Other Sligo.
That's microscopic stuff, Tim. That's in the water I was willing to dive headlong into.
Yeah, probably not now. You probably want to use nose plugs at least.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to go.
And close your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably don't want to gargle. Just saying.
No, I wouldn't do that anyway because fish have sex in that water, Tim, and God knows what I'm getting a mouthful.
You're getting a mouthful of other fish.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And some frogs because they're there too.
Whoa.
Yeah. Little frog zygotes all over. Skeet, skeet, skeet. Just saying.
All right, get with it.
Other Sligo testing sites did not have the amoeba, Freeman said, so some of them were safe.
All right.
Sligo,
but it's just a crapshoot. It's a little bit of a gamble.
A little bit.
I'll just send Josh Gates in first.
There
and
you
if
go.
he makes it, I'll jump in.
Sligo already was concerned about chlorine levels. Probably not the first thing they should have been concerned about. So
brain-eating amoebas.
Yeah,
a little bit more on the stranger danger scale to me.
So it began.
Take the word of old Uncle Darkness Dave. Stranger danger when it comes to brain-eating amoeba. Be more worried about that than chlorine, Tim.
Right.
I've spent a life swimming in chlorinated pools.
Yeah.
I have never once had to worry about the chlorine eating my brain.
Right. So it began flushing the affected portion of the water on Wednesday, Freeman said. The water system has been instructed to initiate a free chlorine burn for the next 60 days. Burn, baby, burn. Amoeba Inferno. The state has not issued a boil water order, Freeman said. The amoeba, look, a nice name. Naegleria fowleri.
Pardon me?
Naegleria fowleri. Is commonly found in warm, fresh water and soil. So we could have it anywhere in the U.S. Mm-hmm. It usually infects people when it enters the body through the nose and later the brain. You cannot get infected by swallowing the water. So swallow away, Bossier City. Swallow away.
Don't do it. I have a feeling that's not a good plan either.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Just avoid it. Stick with bottled water.
Yeah. That sometimes isn't safe either, especially if the seal's broken. Attempts to contact Tracy Landry, a Bossier City spokesperson, were not successful before publication. Sligo normally serves water users with well water, but dry conditions had prompted it to buy Bossier City water. Dirty, dirty water, according to Freeman. So there you go.
Fancy dancy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going into the water anymore.
Yeah.
It's not safe, Tim.
Nope.
Not safe at all.
Not at all.
All right. Where are we off to next?
We're talking about hallucinations, Dave. They're everywhere.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
See that big pink elephant behind you?
Huh? No.
Yeah, okay.
Then that's your hallucination, not mine.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Experiences like hearing voices are leading psychologists to question how all people perceive reality. There's a good chance you've hallucinated before. If you've ever felt the buzz of your phone against your thigh, like I did at the movie last night. Someone was actually calling me, but the guy next to me tried to answer his phone. It was kind of funny. Only to realize the sensation was entirely in your head. You've had a sensory perception of something that isn't real, and that, according to the psychologist Philip Corlett, is what makes a hallucination. To many, this definition may seem shockingly broad. Not that broad, but hallucinations were long considered the stuff of psychosis or drug trips, not a regular and inconsequential part of life. But Corlett operates on the idea that hallucinations exist within a hierarchy. At the highest level, according to Corlett's collaborator, Albert Powers, they would be something like hearing whole sentences of clearly spoken speech of a being who seems quite real. But moving further down the line, hallucinations can be far more banal. An imagined text message, a phantom raindrop, a new parent's mistaken sense of her child by her bedside. This hierarchy perspective represents an ongoing revelation in how widespread and varied hallucinations can be. A survey in the early 1990s found that 10 to 15% of the population of the United States experienced vivid sensory hallucinations at some point in their lives, and scientists have begun to take seriously the idea that voice hearing and other forms of auditory hallucinations can be benign or non-clinical. This newfound ubiquity has come with a host of questions. Why is it so common for people to perceive what isn't there? And how does the brain allow this to happen in the first place? To find answers, researchers have turned to the mechanics of how we perceive reality itself. For Corlett and Powers, both from the Yale School of Medicine, hallucinations have everything to do with expectations. In a new paper in Science, they explore how the mysterious experiences fit into a large speculative idea about how the brain works and, in a sense, what the brain is. The pair recounts a 2017 study they conducted in which their group tried to induce hallucinations both in people who commonly report hallucinations across the psychotic spectrum and in people who don't normally hallucinate. The participants were taught to expect to hear a tone after being shown a flashing light, and then were made to press a button when they thought they heard a tone. They were told to hold down the button longer to rate their confidence in what they heard. People who regularly hallucinate held the button, that is, they hallucinated.
I've been holding the button the whole show.
Significantly longer than those who don't. Corlett and Powers see this experiment as evidence for their perspective on how people understand the world around them. By their way of thinking, the brain works by predictive coding, integrating new information based on the beliefs built on old information. When we go about the world, we're not just passively perceiving sensory inputs through our eyes and ears, Corlett says. We're actually building a model in our minds of what we expect to be present. This mental setup works great for allowing us to move smoothly through the world, taking in in each detail without a second thought. But sometimes Corlett and Powers say the brain has a capacity to overpredict. It can expect something that isn't there, and this expectation can be so strong that we actually perceive the non-existent thing, thus a hallucination. The idea of predictive coding is part of a way out of a knotted, overlapping, and sometimes competing lineage of trying to explain hallucinations. Another model, inner speech theory, was popularized in part by the writings of 20th century psychologist Julian Jaynes. It holds that people who hear voices are really hearing their own thoughts that feel like someone else's. This explanation has been propped up more recently by corollary discharge theory, which states that the body's tracking of its boundaries and actions, the neural machinery that makes your arm feel like your arm and your foot feel like your foot, fails for the thoughts and voices of people with psychotic disorders who experience auditory hallucinations. We're still working to see how our model fits in with those models, Corlett says. Sorry, this is a very long article. This quest for a leg to stand on in researching hallucinations has yielded some theatrical and some even poetic experiments. In his book on science and history of auditory hallucinations, Charles Ferneyhoff, a psychologist at Durham University, tells a psychiatrist in the 40s found that as a group of people with schizophrenia hallucinated voices, muscles in their throats responsible for speech would twitch along with the words they heard. The voices seemed to be their own words hidden elsewhere. Decades later, researchers recorded the voices of hallucinators with psychotic disorders and presented these subjects with electronically distorted copies. They wanted to see if hallucinators could identify with their own distorted voices. In the same vein, researchers have explored using computerized avatars a la Second Life in the past decade to try and help hallucinating psychotics assign their presumed persecutors a face to talk to with the goal of softening the things these voices said to them. Corlett also pointed toward sine wave speech, a particularly stunning example of the way expectation can seem to shape our reality when it comes to language. You can try it yourself. You listen to a sound. Don't turn your volume up too loud, and most people will hear an R2-D2 like swell of vocoder-tinged whistling. Next, much like that. Next, listen to this recording of a woman saying, "It was a sunny day and the children were going to the park," in a soothing Southern English accent. Now try R2-D2 again. Go ahead, R2. Listen to the whistling sine wave speech, and you'll hear a distorted version of the same sunny day sentence, and in all likelihood, you won't be able to unhear the words in the first recording. Hallucinators may have an easier time parsing the R2-D2-like sounds even before listening to the other recording.
Shut up, R2.
In a 2017 study, non-clinical voice hearers were far better at recognizing the presence of a voice in sine wave speech than their non-voice hearing counterparts, and as a group, their brains fired along a pattern distinct from those who couldn't tell that the sine wave speech was a voice. This example, Corlett says, builds the case that auditory hallucinations are linked to the processes of expectation and prediction. Still, Ferneyhoff points out that there are some potential holes in the idea of predictive coding compared to the conventional view of a brain as a device that processes information coming from the environment. Predictive coding starts with a different set of assumptions about how the brain makes predictions about what is in the environment and learns from them, he said, and that can make it hard to reconcile with other more established ways of looking at the brain. Corlett, meanwhile, argues that there's a gap in inner speech theory, citing a study in which people rendered mute from birth reported hearing voices in their heads. He says that the phenomenon can't be completely explained as the brain misreading itself. Whether explanations stand the test of time, the stakes of this science are much higher than understanding why many of us imagine text messages. For some people, hallucinations can be more persistent and disturbing. The science of how these hallucinated touches, sounds, sights manifest themselves in the mind is still unclear. It's too early to say how much the causes of auditory hallucinations and other kinds might overlap, Ferneyhoff says. So far, the research has focused on auditory hallucinations, and to many, the need for that work is quite clear. So there you go.
Fascinating, and especially with what we talked about earlier with Elon Musk and the whole living in the Matrix. I wonder if that's a hallucination that they're having. Does that mean that their perceptions are off?
Could be.
I do wonder how many times we've been in these places and it is a hallucinatory issue. A lot of people don't realize, and I do want to mention this, how many paranormal investigators do we know sit there chugging coffee and smoking cigarettes, Tim?
Quite a few as I'm chugging my root beer.
Right.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize, and those energy drinks, those 5 hour energy drinks, Monster energy drinks, those can cause hallucinatory effects. Upped versions of caffeine and nicotine cause it. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's pretty astounding. And if you think about how many people are on these investigations claiming to see things after they've come in after having a heater and choking down some Joe, that might be what's really going on.
Well, if you're...
The more you know.
Yeah. If you're dialed to 11 and you're expecting something, I'm sure you're going to get it. You know?
Yep. All right. Very cool. Where are we off to next?
Well, there's a mystery out there as dozens of voodoo dolls are spiked with needles and appear nailed to properties across a Russian city overnight. It's kind of a creepy story where creepy voodoo dolls spiked with needles have appeared across a Russian city. The sudden appearance of the sinister-looking voodoo dolls have spooked many residents across Zavetny in the southwest of Russia. Pensioners reportedly complained of blood pressure problems after seeing the haunting mannequins at dozens of locations in the city, not far from the border of Georgia. Not Georgia here, but Georgia, Russia, you know. Residents called for an explanation for the dozens of weird dolls which appeared overnight, and many complained to police. Several of the dolls were eyeless or one-armed, and some of them were dressed in girls' clothes or school uniforms. Head of the local council, Dmitry Barkov, said, "We have urgently brought together police officers to instruct them to calm people. Police are studying CCTV cameras to try and identify who distributed the dolls around the area, even though planting voodoo dolls is not a crime, according to reports." One local complained creepy dolls are nailed to the pillars, fences, and bus stops in Zavetny on the outskirts of Armavir in Krasnodar region. The little girl mannequins are pierced with needles and tied with black threads. Another householder added, 2 were sitting at a bus stop. A doll in a pink ball gown was found in the park. A local also warned, "A curse has been put on our village." A local security officer has admitted dumping the mannequins, the same size as a child, at a local tip, but denied leaving them outside houses. Tatiana Kokorova, claimed that they belonged to a local culture museum and were previously used in a puppet theater, which closed long ago. They were no longer needed, and the security officer thought her daughter, a teacher, could use them, but the school rejected them as unsafe and too scary, so she dumped them. She insisted she was not responsible for dressing them up as voodoo dolls. So there you go.
Denial, Tim.
It ain't just a river in Egypt.
No, it's not. No. All right, and what do we have? How many more stories we got coming at us here?
2 more, I believe.
All right, let's wrap it up with supernatural news. What's our next story?
A prehistoric, it says prehistoric art hints at lost Indian civilization. The discovery of rock carvings believed to be tens of thousands of years old in India's western state of Maharashtra has greatly excited archaeologists who believe they hold clues to a previously unknown civilization. The rock carvings, known as petroglyphs, have been discovered in their thousands atop hillocks in the Konkan region of western Maharashtra, mostly discovered in the Ratnagiri and Rajapur areas. The majority of images etched on the rocky flat hilltops remain unnoticed for thousands of years. Most of them were hidden beneath layers of soil and mud, but a few were in the open. These were considered holy and worshipped by locals in some areas. The sheer variety of rock carvings have stunned experts. Animals, birds, human figures, and geometrical designs are all depicted on those petroglyphs. The way the petroglyphs have been drawn and their similarity to those found in other parts of the world have led experts to believe that they were created in prehistoric times and are possibly among the oldest ever discovered. Our first deduction from examining these petroglyphs is that they were created around 10,000 BC. The director of the Maharashtra State Archaeology Department, Tejas Garg, told the BBC. The credit for their discovery goes to a group of explorers led by Sudhir Rizbud and Manoj Marath, who began searching for the images in earnest after observing a few in the area. Many were found in village temples and played a part in local folklore. We walked thousands of kilometers. People started sending photographs to us, and we even enlisted schools in our efforts to find them. We made students ask their grandparents and other village elders if they knew about any other engravings. This provided us with a lot of valuable information, Mr. Rizbud told the BBC. Together, they found petroglyphs in and around 52 villages in the area, but only around 5 villages were aware that the images even existed. Apart from actively searching for them, Mr. Rizbud and Mr. Marath have also played an important role for documenting the petroglyphs and lobbying authorities to get involved in studying and preserving them. Mr. Garg says the images appear to have been created by a hunter-gatherer community which was not familiar with agriculture. We have not found any picture of farming activities, but the images depict hunted animals, and there's detailing of animal forms. So this man knew about animals and sea creatures. That indicates that he was dependent on hunting for food. Dr. Shrikant Pradhan, a researcher and art historian at Poon's Deccan College, who's studied the petroglyphs closely.
Pictures in the dirt.
Yep. Said the art was clearly inspired by things observed by people at the time. Most of the petroglyphs show familiar animals. There are images of sharks and whales as well as amphibians like turtles, Mr. Garg adds, but this begs the question of why some of the petroglyphs depict animals like hippos and rhinoceroses, which aren't found in this part of India. Did the people who created them migrate from India or to India from Africa, or were these animals once found in India is the question. The state government has set aside a fund of 240 million rupees, or $3.2 million, to further study 400 of the identified petroglyphs. It is hoped that some of the questions will eventually be answered. And our last story, are aliens watching ISS, or the International Space Station? A bizarre glowing object is spotted slowly circling the space station. Bizarre video footage has made its way online after an eagle-eyed viewer or viewers spotted something out of the ordinary near the ISS. The clip captured yesterday shows a small object slowly moving around the artificial satellite. Scott Waring, you know him, you love him, you can't live without him, posted it to YouTube. Speculates it could be a top-secret program, unknown NASA project, or a UFO in the clip. He goes on to describe the object as disc-like, suggesting it could be proof of advanced extraterrestrial life. More than 20,000 people have seen the video since it was posted, and viewers were stunned. NASA needs to tell the truth about these sightings, one viewer claimed. Another added, very strange find, and a third claimed it's definitely something. Way to be just right on and definitive with that one. The ISS has been at the center of conspiracy theories over the years, but has been under the spotlight in particular recently after a small hole was detected. Russia claimed the leak was created deliberately to sabotage your space missions. Dmitry Rogozin, the director of the country's space agency, Roscosmos, said a person could have deliberately made the hole using a drill, either during manufacture or while it was in orbit. So there you go.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's your turn to shine. And remember, folks, we want you to call into our Voices from Beyond voicemail and share your paranormal encounters. Give us a call at 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. And leave us a 3-minute story about one of your paranormal experiences, and it may be featured on an upcoming episode of Beyond the Darkness. Stay tuned. We've got more coming your way right after this.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Tim Dennis. This is Supernatural News Parashare Saturday. Remember, call in and be a part of the show every Saturday. How do you do it? Call our Voices from Beyond voicemail, 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. Leave us a voicemail. Tell us about your paranormal experience. Ghosts, UFOs, angels, monsters. We want to hear any of them. Ouija boards. If you have funny ghost stories or funny paranormal stories, scary, heartwarming, we want to hear them. Give us a call, 651-300-4977, and it may be featured on an upcoming episode just like this one.
Hi, Tim and Dave. My name is Tasha, and I am from New Brunswick, Canada. I work in a funeral home, and I have a couple of stories to share about one of our locations. The building is your stereotypical old house that one would picture when they think about funeral homes. Usually as a staff, we do not scare easily, but this place literally gives everyone the creeps, especially in the basement. The reception room and chapel are located in the basement of the funeral home, so when we are working there, we often have to go down at night to tidy up and ensure all the doors are locked and the lights are out, which is the most horrifying part, obviously. There is a dark energy down there. Even the cleaner prefers not to go to the basement after dark. Many of my coworkers have had weird experiences in the building, like hearing voices or feeling a rush of cold air, almost like someone bumping into you, but of course, no one's there. I was working there one weekend and was alone in the building and was sitting at the reception desk on the main floor. The door leading to the chapel downstairs was being held open by a brick. I sat there and watched the door to the chapel slam shut. The brick that was holding the door open literally flew away from the door. It made me think about when you are mad at someone and you slam a door. That's exactly what happened. Being a fan of paranormal shows and radio shows, I immediately went into debunking mode. There were no windows open, no drafts happening, and I was completely alone in the funeral home. Needless to say, I left early that day. On other occasions, I had been working there alone and heard a male and female voice arguing upstairs. I had went up to where the casket selection room is, which is where I heard the voices from, and there was nobody there. I could not make out what the people were saying, but I could tell their voices were raised, and there was a male and a female. I checked the offices and even went outside to see if maybe I was hearing people from one of the other businesses, but once again, I was completely alone. Other people I have worked with have heard a woman singing in the chapel, and many of the embalmers claim to see a man in a blue suit who walks around the back of the funeral home and comes and goes from the embalming room. More than once, we'll call to one another to see if they're working in the prep room, but when you go in there, no one is there. I'm not sure what would inspire a ghost to stick around the funeral home, but we definitely have a couple of ghostly visitors who like to spend time with us. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to tell my story, and thank you for making my life a little bit more spookier. I really appreciate you both. I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm reading, but I totally am reading. I had to write it down so I could make sure I told the story properly. Thanks again for everything, and I hope you both have an amazing and spooky Halloween. Bye.
See, Tim, it's easy. It's simple. That's all you have to do. Just give us a call, and you can be featured on the show just like that caller. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
People are always like, oh, we miss live callers. We want people to call in. We want to hear their stories. Well, we're giving you a chance. Give us a call, 651-300-4977. We'll feature you in an upcoming episode. Dear Dave and Tim, I have one cat, an old brown tiger with a white face, 4 white paws, and a lot of extra skin around her middle that sways when she walks. Her name is Yoko, because she makes horrible noises. She's not a particularly nice cat. She tolerates us at best and really only seeks out attention when she doesn't feel well. She has never been friendly and only purrs when she's being held to get to the person holding her to relax their grip so she can get away. I have one cat. We have lived in our house for over 20 years, and over the years, I have often seen a cat out of the corner of my eye or in fleeting glimpses when I know for a fact that Yoko is either outside or I just saw her in a different room. Seeing the ghost cat has been a running joke in our house, however, but for a few years, up until a few years ago, I began to think that something else might be going on. I have one cat. Yoko is very picky about her litter boxes. She has 4 litter boxes lined up against the basement wall, which keeps her happy. They're cleaned every Saturday. All 4 are usually used, and because there are 4 of them, they aren't over full or even too smelly. But here's the thing. Sometimes there is way more waste in the boxes than one cat can put out. Sometimes there's enough for 2 or even 3 cats. About the 3rd time this happened, I literally asked my partner if he thought it was possible we had 2 cats in the house and the other one was just hiding. After he made me do a concussion test, he assured me there was no way we had 2 cats. But I have one cat. We're both smokers, but we don't smoke in the house. Instead, we stand at our open kitchen door and smoke. Several times we have watched Yoko go outside, close the door, and then gone back upstairs to watch TV, and have had to pick the cat up off the chair to sit back down. We've asked the cat, "Didn't you just go outside? How did you get up here?" And then we laugh, but her fur is not cold. We regularly see Yoko sleeping in her downstairs bed, and minutes later see her sleeping in her upstairs bed. I have one cat, but the other thing that makes me think there may be 2 cats is the weight fluctuation. Yoko Alpha has a kidney disease that forces her to eat a prescription diet and has caused her to lose lots of weight. Once her weight stabilized because of her diet, it did not fluctuate very much at all. But sometimes she looks huge and weighs more at one time in the day than at other times. I can pick her up in the morning and pet her, and 2 hours later I do it again and she seems heavier and less wispy. I have one cat. Yoko Alpha also has never been much of a beggar when it comes to food, but a few years ago she began begging while we ate dinner. Not every meal. Sometimes she ignores us completely while we eat, and sometimes she's aggressive, hitting our hands with her head, wanting some of our food. Yoko Beta has an appetite. Yoko Alpha doesn't feel well and doesn't eat much. I have one cat. I believe Yoko Alpha and Yoko Beta have figured out a way to move from one universe to the other. Sometimes they are both on this side. Sometimes they're both on the other side, and sometimes they switch places. We've never seen them together in the same room. I attribute that to Yoko Alpha being a prima donna and not wanting to have anything to do with other cats, even if the other cat is her. Yoko Alpha is thin and bitchy. Yoko Beta has a healthier weight and likes to be petted. I don't know for sure, but I think the gateway is in our basement, in the furnace room, and sometimes Yoko Beta only comes over to use the litter boxes. Anyway, I know I sound crazy, but I'm telling you, I don't have 2 cats. But I have 2 cats. I truly enjoy your show, and that comes from Wade. I like how every sentence, I have one cat. I feel like we're kind of in a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah. I wonder if there will be some sort of weird battle between Yoko Alpha and Yoko Beta.
I don't know. Yeah, and then the winner would become Yoko Omega?
Yes.
Yes. Dave, I don't know what to make of this. It happened twice a while back, and last night I'm sitting here on the computer, and next to me is a table with my TV. And I'm listening to a radio, and all of a sudden I hear something that sounds like under the floor, around where the TV is. Noise. Something. So it stops, and I did what I did last time it happened. I wish I could remember the time. Last night, it was around 10 p.m., but okay, I stomp my foot on the floor, and when I do, I hear the noise again, just like I did the first time. It would be like I knock on the wall, and then you knock on the other side. I made note of day and time, and I just hope it doesn't happen again. And both times my husband was not in the room, so he never did hear it. Have you heard anything like this? It does not happen in broad daylight, and that comes from Janice. Nope, Janice, you're nuts or demonically infested. Maybe both. I'm not quite sure. No, I'm just kidding. You're probably not demonically infested. Found you guys on Stitcher, and I love your program. My story is about black-eyed adults. Just like their children, these things have big, black, shark-like eyes and expressionless faces. My story begins on the Long Island Expressway back in December of 2001. I drove a black sedan for a car service from Delaware to JFK Airport in New York. I made the trip dozens of times and knew my way around the side streets along my route. One night around 12 a.m., I was on my way to JFK when a car accident has the two-lane expressway at a standstill. I talked to my passenger, let's call him Steve, and decided to take the side streets. I jumped off at Sheep's Head Bay and started our way. We began talking about how creepy the name Sheep's Head Bay is when, from out of nowhere, a 1950s-style Chevy Bel Air appeared. Steve jumped up and threw his arm over the side passenger seat and said, "Dude, check out that car." We both looked out the driver's side window as we came to a stop at a red light where we were about to turn right. As the car came to a stop, we continued to stare at the car. It was beautiful. Chrome trim, red paint, convertible. Wait, convertible? It was December. It had to be in the low 30s. There was a couple in the car, both with 50s clothing on. He was a short guy with a brown derby hat and a brown coat. The woman had a scarf looped over her head like a hood, big round frame glasses, and a leather coat. My passenger yells out, "Hey, nice ride!" Both of them turned slowly, in unison, and looked right at us. Black eyes. Huge black eyes. We both froze. As the light turned green, while still looking at us, they began to make a left turn. We sat there stunned as the car drove north towards Manhattan. While still a bit stunned, we make the right turn. Not a word was said between me and Steve. He slumps back into a seat and says, "What the frick was that?" I had no answer. We continued down the road where I saw that the expressway was open. And so we jumped on the ramp and we're back on our course. As we entered the expressway, I could see the blue lights of emergency vehicles in the distance behind us. We were on the expressway alone, no other traffic ahead or behind us. Looks like smooth sailing from here on out. Steve at this point was still shaken, and he climbed back to the front and hopped into the passenger seat. We started talking about what happened when I could see headlights approaching in the rearview mirror. First, I thought I must have been speeding. I moved to the right lane and basically waited for the blue lights of a patrol car to come on so I could find a place to pull over, since there was no shoulder to pull off onto. All of a sudden, the headlights moved to the right. I can't believe it. I yelled. The car just jumped over the curb onto the sidewalk and began to pass on the right. Guess who? The black-eyed couple was back. They passed us at over 100 miles per hour. We looked over with the telephone poles flashing between us. The driver looked over at us. His eyes were a glossy black, and again, without taking his eyes off of us, he floats back onto the expressway and rockets off out of sight. I say floats because the car actually jolted as they jumped the curb and passed us. It was just kind of slid onto that sidewalk. We continued down the expressway until we reached the airport. We didn't say a lot to each other as he got out of the car and grabbed his bag. Before he walked away, he said, "Sheepshead Bay is a really creepy name for a neighborhood." That's a good one, Keith. Thank you for sharing that. Dear Devilish Dave and Terrifying Tim. First, I'd like to say I love your show. You guys are the best for a reason. Second, Dave, a few weeks back, your positive words with dealing with depression moved me to tears. Your words of support, love, and light lifted me and filled me with hope. My wife of 9 years has been dealing with depression her entire life, more recently compounded by possible bipolar disorder, PTSD, and PPD. Needless to say, we are tested on a daily basis. But we don't give up, as I love her and will do anything in my power to be her light in her deepest, darkest moments. Third, my Monday Parashare story. Well, this is Saturday Parashare story. Sorry, we're reading it now. We don't do Mondays anymore. I'll do my best to keep it brief if you choose to read this on air. Well, we do, and here we go. My wife and I encountered a malevolent spirit that attacked and left me with scratch marks on my head. Back in the early 2000s, my then fiance and I rented the end unit of a 4-unit townhouse in the hills of Manchester, New Hampshire. Tim, New Hampshire.
I don't think that's how it's pronounced, but okay.
Oh, is it Manchester?
Yes.
New Hampshire?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. Late at night, we could hear thumping and banging from the second floor. Hey, if this place is a rockin', don't bother knocking. Am I right, Tim?
Yep.
We originally thought nothing of it because we owned a 13-pound Maine Coon cat that loved to chase her toy mice late at night. We were later introduced to the neighbor, a single mom with 2 teenage boys who fought incessantly. If our cat was asleep on her perch, any thumps or banging If our cat was asleep on her perch, any thumps or banging we naturally dismissed as the boys next door. Things got weird once we settled in. The neighbors would not be home, and our cat would sleep high on her cat perch, and we would still hear the loud thumps and the bangs from the second floor. We had a gut feeling that something was up, but never thought it was anything malevolent. We hosted a party at our house, and a friend, a known sensitive, came into the kitchen and asked, "What's with the old woman upstairs?" We gave him a blank stare, not knowing what the heck he was talking about. Another friend, less sensitive, walked to the top of the stairs and refused to go any further without someone being with her. Well, late one night, my fiance and I were getting ready to go to bed. Without my glasses on or contact lenses in, my vision, it's just not the best. I thought I had seen the cat poking her head out from the second floor bedroom doorway. When I knelt down, squinted, and asked her if she was okay, half expecting the usual chirp, the cat lunges at me, scratching my head. I felt back and exclaimed profanity. "That effing cat scratched my face!" My fiance, now alert to the situation, said, "How is that possible? The cat is in our bed." Sure enough, there she was, eagerly awaiting us to fall asleep or to go hunting in the night to bring us her catch, these fake mice. Through our own investigation, we confirmed there was an elderly woman who resided on the second floor and did not approve of my fiance and I living together. We sage rubbed down those houses and moved out shortly thereafter. Lastly, my now wife and I reside in Atkinson, New Hampshire. Tim, is that right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. With our 2 beautiful children. Coincidentally, our home resides 2.5 miles from America's Stonehenge, Mystery Hill in Salem, New Hampshire. If you make it out this way, stop by. The place is surrounded in mystery and is at least an interesting tourist spot. I noticed while looking at Google Earth, one of the astrological alignment paths line up with a large stone in my backyard. I'd say the stone is no larger than a mid-sized sedan. It's a pretty damn big stone in your yard. Yeah. Though the woods have not been cleared to the stone for the astrological alignment, as they are roadways, the multiple houses within the path, there is something to the stone, as I always feel like I'm being watched when I'm near it. Our 3.5-year-old daughter would have nightmares and see people in her room. I don't know if there's a link to this stone, but to ease her nights, we placed our quartz stones in the 4 corners of her room. So far, it seems to have helped. Keep doing such wonderful work, Dave and Tim. Sending you light and love to you and your families, and that comes from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. I'll always take a little light and love. Mm-hmm. Speaking of light and love, Let's take another call, Tim.
Hello, my name is Dan. I live in southwest Minnesota. Used to live in Albertville, suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Lived there for about 12 years. I have a number of stories that it's happened to me my whole life. Everything from full apparitions to things moving right in front of me. But the one that really stuck out the most, at the time, my son was about 3-4 years old, right in that area. It happened for about 4 months. He would religiously sleep with his mother in my bedroom, which left me on the couch. Well, over time, I realized that he refused to go in his room at nighttime, and then starting to refuse to go into his room during the day. Well, I just attributed that to he liked sleeping with Mom. Until one day, it was about 4 o'clock. We were getting our stuff ready. It was a Saturday afternoon. We were going to go have some supper with some family. And had him in my arms. We had to run into his room to grab a sweatshirt for him. And he, as I was going into his room, he grabbed the door and would not let go and started screaming. And then my pug, Coffee Bean, actually started biting at my ankles. And mind you, this is a dog that adored me and I adored her. So that night when we got back, I laid down on the couch thinking about everything that's been going on. And I guess I should probably mention that I do have kind of a sense for this. Stuff tends to happen to me all the time. Really don't want to delve into that a whole lot right now in this message, but so I'm laying on the couch and my son's room is down the hallway but kind of angled so I can see in his room. And we had a half moon nightlight. I'm laying there. It's about 11 o'clock. And for some reason, I'm focusing down the hall, just feeling like somebody's down there. And then I saw somebody go from my bedroom into his room, and then the nightlight went off. Now, 2 things. First thing is the nightlight was a push switch. So it's not a dial of any sort. It wasn't shorted out. And another was I was kind of figuring why my ex-wife, we're divorced now, I was wondering why she would get up just to go shut the nightlight off. She wasn't that type of woman. So I immediately, without taking my eyes off the door, and sure enough, there's nobody in the room. Look at my bedroom, and my ex-wife and my son are sound asleep on my bed. So I decided, enough's enough. I ain't going to have this in my house, and I'm going to take care of my son. So the next night, I slept in his room. And I woke up in the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had the shades open, and the street lights were lighting up the room, and the corner was completely dark. And I woke up because I knew somebody was there with me. And I sat up and forcefully told him, this is my house. I'm not going to have this. You're not going to scare my children or my wife. Get out. And it didn't do anything. And then I stood up and I told him that I would help destroy you. And the corner started to lighten up. And the next day, my ex-wife came to me and said, you're not going to believe this, and went in there, and sure enough, my son was coloring at his table in his room. That wasn't the only thing that happened in that house, or to me. Like I said, there was a lot more. And the house was built in 2005, so it's not like it was an old house. Apparently, I just have a light to me that attracts the paranormal. So, wanted to give you another one. This happened in Albertville again. It was a Sunday, and typically every other weekend I would go down and help my dad, my brother. We'd pour some concrete, and I would come home Sunday afternoon. Well, Sunday around noon, I was pretty tired, so I laid down on my mom and dad's couch and took a nap. And I woke up to a phone call from my ex-wife asking me where I was, very demanding. And I told her, I said, I'm at Mom and Dad. She says, no, quit messing with me. You better tell me where you are. And I said, well, I'll call Mom and Dad's house phone. This is people that still have landlines. And so she's like, okay, well, I believe you. Just get home. Everything okay? Yeah, everything's okay. So I get in the truck and I get home. And I go in there and she's sitting in the bedroom. And apparently her and my son got home, and my son was pretty dirty, so she went to go give him a shower. And mind you, I have a house alarm, ADT, and she always had it set. And all of a sudden she heard my voice say, I'm home, and my son heard it and looked there and said, Dad's home. So she went out, nobody there. I tend to scare her once in a while, so she started hollering for me, and obviously I wasn't there. The alarm was still set. She looked outside. The truck was there, and I got the call. So thank you. Really enjoy your show. Bye.
All right, Tim. Should we take our third and final call now? What is it? This is our buddy is this Earl from Kentucky again?
This is Earl from Eastern Kentucky, yep.
Okay. Now, he's becoming a fan favorite, and he's back with a brand new paranormal story for us. And remember, if you'd like to call in and be a part of the show, all you have to do is give our Voices from Beyond message service a call at 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. Call 651-300-4977 and tell us your paranormal encounters. You have 3 minutes to do it. If you're in the middle of telling the story and you get cut off, just call right back in immediately. Take a few seconds and then go right back into the story. Tim will edit it together and complete the entire tale. So give us a call, 651-300-4977 to be featured on an upcoming episode.
Hey, Dave and Tim, Earl from Eastern Kentucky again. I tell you, I'm so happy listening to you play my recording there on your show. Well, I guess you did ask for an update. I reckon I'd call in to give you one. So, yes, I did get into trouble, and yes, there is one number off there from your old phone number and one of them fancy girl lines. You call in, talk to them and all that. Well, I did get out of trouble, and I did it in a very smart way. I listen to your show a lot, so the Pluto TV recommendation there for the free TV, I got that thing set up. My wife loves it. She forgot all about the issue with the thing there. Dave, your stomach upset? Is it still, I wonder, but next time it is now, ginger, it's old country kind of remedy. If you take it to reduce inflammation, you know it promotes digestion. It relieves nausea and vomiting too. So next time you start to feel a little bad, just put 1 teaspoon of powdered ginger and 1/2 teaspoon of fresh ginger, a root in a cup of water, mix it up and drink it. You'll be fine. Yeah, Tim, I tell you what, your 17th great-grandfather just might have been the reason everything's going on. But, you know, my 17th great-grandfather is also my 17th great cousin. Now, think about that. No, I'm joking. Just playing around. We don't mix around here. We just being funny. Yeah, Misty was the girl. So what I did was to prove to you that this is the case. I went and had my cousin Jeff to go ahead and call into this show. Just to kind of get an idea about what it's like. And lo and behold, I recorded it here for you. So just a little bit just to prove to you. Now, this is a call-in show. These little girls, they're looking really, really sexy on their little underwear and all their little lingerie. Well, anyway, you know, that's the kind of thing that you get to listen to now when you call in. And no, I ain't talking to them. No, honey, I ain't talking to no girls. This is Tim and... No, I ain't talking to no girls. It's Darkness Radio. I don't believe in no Darkness Radio. No, it's paranormal, honey. Well, you know, now I believe in ghosts and things like... There ain't nothing wrong with her. Just hold... Well, honey, let me get... Well, they are. Well, hold on a minute. Just hold on. I got to go outside and talk to you. Oh, boy. All right, then. Now, the dog's mad, too. Everything's going crazy. Oh, well, I'm going to go before I get eat up and also beat up all at the same time. I love your show. Oh, by the way, real fast, this is paranormal. I don't want to be abnormal all the time. Funniest thing about please be careful down there in the Bermuda Triangle. You know, Flight 19 there, it disappeared. It's a team of 5 U.S. Navy bombers disappeared. Can't find them. You said you're going to try to use your mind to bring something up from the depths. I wouldn't call squid. It could pull you under. What I would try... Hey, Dave, Tim, trying to sneak and call you. I get cut off. I just don't like it. Getting cut off like that because I need to at least say bye. But what I was going to say, don't call no squids. Try to use your mind power and call up the USS Scorpion. I know you've covered this, I know, but you cover a lot, you may have forgotten. As a submarine and nuclear powered, it was operated by the United States Navy. This is 1968. Just completely vanished, gone. So, you may want to just look into that because that's it. Oh, gracious. Well, I got to go. Honey, hold on. I got to go, guys. Thank y'all. That's the girl from Eastern Kentucky. Just go ahead and carry on. Honey, there ain't nothing going on about this.
Let's get a couple more of these emails in, should we?
Sure.
All right, good show last night. I'm going to try to find the Conjuring movie, Sharon says. Back in the 70s, I saw these scary creatures up in 3 of the 4 corners in my bedroom. They were animated, moving around, but I don't think there was any noise. I was thinking they were kind of like lions outside at the New York Public Library. I was afraid to go in the bedroom. I could see these creatures, these 3 creatures, with my eyes when they were open or closed. I slept on the couch. About 10 years later, I'd moved and I got a catalog, and in it were these scary creatures, these gargoyles. I'd never seen them before in a book or anywhere other than in that room. That made it twice as scary, thinking, these things aren't just my imagination. They've been around for centuries. Has anyone told you of creatures like these before? I've never heard of these lion. Oh, you know what? I've heard of some of these lion-faced creatures, but they're I've heard them related to the alien world. Thanks for that input.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Hey, Dave and Tim, I found your show about 3 months ago, and I'm hooked. Now, I should mention, Tim, this email was written on Sunday, October 30th of 2016. So I guess you heard about the show 2 years and 3 months ago. Keep up the awesome work. I thought I'd send you my first paranormal experience since it just took a creepy turn. This happened to me when I was about 8 years old. My cousin lived in a creepy house when we were young, and it always gave me a creepy feeling, but I was never scared to go inside. For months, my cousin was telling me she was seeing and hearing things in the house, but when I was there, I never felt or saw anything, so I just assumed she was making it up. She has a tendency to make things up sometimes, so I just thought this was her imagination again. Anyway, I spent the night with her, and nothing happened that night, of course. We woke up in the morning, and we were playing around when her mom left with her siblings to go run errands, and we stayed behind to play. We'd been playing outside, and nothing had happened when we decided to go outside and play. We were about to go outside when she forgot something and went back upstairs to get it. I waited by the front door for her while she went upstairs, and was fine until I heard a loud boom. Then I heard my cousin screaming that she couldn't open the door, and I could tell she was terrified. I walked to the bottom of the stairs to go help her open the door, but when I looked up at the top of the stairs, I froze. The room she was in was just past the stairs, and the door was visible from where I was standing. But it was the woman holding the door closed that made me freeze. She had long black hair, but wasn't looking at me. She was just holding the door closed. She was as clear as anything I've ever seen, and I really thought someone had broken in. I cried out in fear when she turned to me, and my heart stopped. She had no face, and fear overwhelmed me as I started to back away. At that moment, she released the door and rushed down the stairs right at me, gliding as she moved. I screamed and hit the wall behind me as she rushed past, and watched as she rushed out the door. The freaky thing was that the moment she went out of the front door, my cousin was frantically trying to open, suddenly flew open. We screamed as we ran out of the house and ran down the road, not stopping until we both couldn't run anymore. I never stayed the night at her house again after that, and wouldn't go inside when we played together, and it wasn't long until they moved out of that house. The funny thing is that just a few months ago, I told the story to my younger sister, who was about 5 when our cousins lived in that house. The entire time I was telling the story, a look of horror crossed her face, and she told me about a time when they were trying to get to my mom and my aunt, and that the same lady kept closing the doors on them and not letting them get to our moms. It kind of brought the whole thing around, and needless to say, I believe my cousin now. Well, it's been a long story, so I'll share the next one later. Hope you enjoyed the story, and that comes from Emily. I did, Emily. Thank you. That was a good creepy one. I appreciate that. Good chiller, Tim.
Yeah.
Good chiller.
Yeah.
All right, our final story, Tim. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Hi, Dave. That's it, Tim, right there. Hi, Dave.
That's fine.
I'm originally from Stratford, Connecticut. I think that's how you say it, right? Stratford?
Yeah.
Where the house that belonged to Judge Phelps, who condemned Goody Bassett to hang as a witch in the old bad days, was documented as being haunted in the official and well-researched thick blue book of the history of the town of Stratford, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In 1971, friends of mine read about Ed and Lorraine's mini museum of haunted items and wanted to go visit that. I had a beat-up old Rambler with a push-button automatic transmission, and they lobbied me to drive them there. They told us about some visitors to their museum who had ignored warnings and touched a devil doll that they had as a part of their collection, and had their car suddenly stop on the way home that would not start, and they saw the devil doll in their rearview mirror just before they were rear-ended by a car whose driver never slowed down, never hit the brakes, and swore that he never saw them in the road. I forget exactly why the same friends wanted to go back a second time, but Lorraine told us that they were about to offer a class and teach people to be able to discern a real haunting from, for instance, teenaged kids acting up and trying to fake things. Ed and Lorraine were receiving so many requests for help that they wanted to help and have people they could send in ahead of time to verify any haunting, if it was real or not. One friend really wanted to take the course and lobbied me to take it with him and drive him to the Warrens' barn every Saturday for several weeks. They also told us that as a part of their course, they would introduce us to a person that Ed described as a high spiritual yogi. I wanted to meet the yogi, so I took the course with my friend. One of the things Ed told us right off the bat was, if you're approaching a building and something invisible slaps you in the face, you say, "In the name of God, I command you to leave this place." If it slaps you in the face a second time, then you turn around and leave. That would be something that is too powerful for you to deal with. Tim, would you stay for the second slap, or would you pretty much just fall to the floor and start weeping?
No, I'm a pretty tough guy. I could take a second one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The friend who took the course with me spent a night in a haunted house with another friend of ours, a house in which a kitchen knife flew through the air and stuck itself deeply into a solid wood door. My 20-something-year-old at the time friends spend the night holding hands and shaking in fear. I hadn't been interested in that kind of close encounter, and besides, I had to work nights. So, Tim, if you were in a house where knives would just into wood walls near you, would you keep staying, or do you think maybe you'd just tip out?
I think I might leave after a while.
Yeah. Well, once one knife kind of zips past you and sticks in the wall, I get the feeling that if they can chuck it that hard, Tim, I don't want to be there anymore.
Probably not. No.
Unless that's like the only knife. I mean, I don't care if I get spooned. The last time I went to see the Warrens was shortly after something had levitated Lorraine, spun her around, and slammed her head against the corner of a hutch. She would have bled to death if a plumber hadn't been scheduled to do some work for them, and when he got there, he saw through the door that Lorraine was unconscious in a pool of blood on the floor. While I was there, something wanted me to get up and push Lorraine down a flight of stairs. It took all my willpower to just sit there and not get up and do just that. I gave Ed a ride to visit the yogi, whose visit to the class was the one class I missed. I was quite shaken and nervous all the way to this yogi's house, and the second I saw the guy, I felt completely at ease, no longer anxious at all. The yogi told me to read a book and come back and talk to him if I thought that the school of yoga was something I wanted to get more deeply involved in. After having a history of nightmares and unpleasant paranormal experiences, the yogi and I met the Warrens. The yogi that I met through the Warrens told me how to ask for help and or protection and make the not-so-friendly spirits go away and stay away. He told me that the type of spirits that were bothering me were trying to scare energy out of me because they'd cut themselves off from their legitimate sources of energy and need to steal it from the living. I followed his advice and it worked. I still had unpleasant dreams and unpleasant encounters with spirits, but I knew how to get rid of them. Send them away unsatisfied. And they bothered me less and less until they rarely bother trying anymore. After that, I encountered nightmares within 24 hours before driving by the street the Warrens lived on, even when I had no intention of driving that way. My father was partially disabled and quite large and had been a mean drunk and a bully all of his life, and when he wanted to go somewhere, I was the one who got drafted into driving him there, and he would become quite agitated and make life miserable for my mother if I wanted to take an alternative route to anywhere he wanted to go. I'm thinking about the time I dreamed I heard a voice that sounded like a junior high school age boy whining, "I am God, and you're going to hell because you didn't mediate last Monday night." In the dream, I snapped back, "I don't know who you are, but you're not my God." I woke up and followed the yogi's instructions and have had no further problems with nasty spirits that night. And then got the call the next evening and was asked to go pick up Mom and Dad and drive them to a restaurant for some kind of special occasion. And when I got to their house, Dad insisted that he wanted to go to a particular restaurant that was about 5 miles up the road past the Warrens' home. When I wondered if there was an alternate route to get there, he became his abrasive self and informed me that this is the way we go when we go there. He didn't want to hear about any alternate route nonsense, and I didn't tell him why I didn't want to go that way, but I realized why the youthful-sounding nasty spirit had tried to scare a little energy out of me the night before. The wrong Catholic priest told Ed at the wrong time that he was doing God's work. The yogi told me Lorraine, who was a sweetheart, had been optimistic and upbeat and always wore bright, colorful clothes when he knew her, but she'd taken to wearing dark clothes and looked more and more depressed since she and Ed had gotten involved in their work. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the insight, and that comes from Jim. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate that. It's always interesting to hear about the Warrens. Well, that's it for this week, Tim. We're all out of stories. We're all out of love. What am I without you? But don't worry, we're going to be back tomorrow. We've got another brand new edition of the best in paranormal talk radio, plus a brand new theater of the mind tomorrow on Beyond the Darkness.